Okay.
Okay.
Good morning, and thank you for coming. Uh, my name is Bill Holbrook, and this is my daughter,
Hi.
H.H. Glynn.
Yep, I am the co-author and the preteen goth consultant.
And we're here to talk about Dethany and the Phantom of the Swim Team, the new graphic novel that is coming out from Hermes Press later this fall. And I'd like to just give some background on it. It's it features the character Dethany from On the Fast Track. On the Fast Track is a text strip I've been doing for several decades, and it's about a company called Fast Track Incorporated, a high-tech firm that is a cloud company, and Dethany is the executive assistant to the CEO, Rose Trellis. She's kind, cheerful, hardworking, conscientious, and very goth. She maintains her style despite the fact that it violates every dress code the company has. And she's become the main character of Fast Track. I didn't introduce her until 2010 when the strip was already established, but she immediately became a fan favorite and became the main character. I wanted to explore her background, how she came to be how she is, and that was with the support of the president of King Features, that syndicates Fast Track, and C.J. Kettner, and she suggested that we do a graphic novel and show how Dethany's tween experiences informed how she came to be the person she is in a professional capacity. So we H.H.
Yeah.
We sat down and began collaborating on the tween milieu and created the first Dethany book, which was called Dethany and the Other Clique, which we see before us right here. Yeah. It came out in 2021, and it's set when Dethany was 12, and she comes into a school which has a very rigid social hierarchy. When you enroll at the school, you are required to declare what clique you belong to. You can join the jocks or the fashionistas or the anime girls. Dethany is immediately put into the goth clique and finds out that every clique has someone in there that doesn't really belong. They're kind of the outcasts in each clique. So they begin banding together into a clique of their own, which is called the Other Clique. That's why the title is Dethany and the Other Clique, because it's all the misfits of the people who don't fit in anywhere else. Dethany comes from a military family which moves around a lot, and therefore she hasn't really put down any roots. So friendship is important to her. She's just moved into this town, doesn't know anyone, and her group of these misfits has become the first real friends she's ever had due to moving around. So this becomes an imperative of her to maintain her friendship with all of the other people in the group. The first person she meets is Patricia. Patricia has joined the goth clique in the school because she's not goth herself, but she just wants to be left alone. And then Dethany joins, and it turns out they become fast friends. The next person is Horace. He was in the gaming clique, but his games are childhood board games like Candyland, which was why he didn't fit into the gaming clique.
Yeah, and the next person that ends up joining the clique is Catalina, who is on the cheer team, but she's more invested in choreographing interpretive dances than adhering to a strict cheer routine.
Warren looks to be a classic goth, but he is completely separate until he beats Dethany. And the question is, how important is his gothiness is to his identity? Because he in the first book had some secrets.
And there is Bashir, who is a member of the shop class clique, but has a passion for origami.
And the final member of the group is Cho, who's a member of the fashionista clique, but they look down on her because of they don't like her basic style. And she is style is very important to her. And she's finding out who she is, but she's also a very good seamstress. And when she leaves the fashionista group, they lose their best person who actually makes clothes. Now, the first book, it ends on the last day of school, which leads us to the second book. And that's what we're here to talk about, Dethany and the Phantom of the Swim Team. Because it starts on the very next day after the first book ends, on the first day of summer vacation. And the group get together, they keep doing things even though it's the end of school, and they still stay together because the group is very important to them. And one of the things they do right off is go play miniature golf, which has a goth theme. It's monster golf with where all the holes are based on horror movies. And what happens is that these are all 12-year-olds, so they begin going through changes.
Yeah, so obviously they're going through all these changes, so there's going to be some growth spurts, both in height and in otherwise. They're getting braces, and of course they are hitting puberty, which ends up being a central conflict for the rest of the book.
Dethany in particular.
Yes.
So one of the things that happen is that the neighborhood has a swim team, but there aren't enough swimmers to qualify to have a meet. They've had to forfeit several meets because they didn't have enough swimmers. Patricia is one of the people on the swim team, so she asked Dethany if she can be a swimmer. Outdoor sports are way out of Dethany's comfort zone. She's very pale of skin, and she has to wear a lot of sunscreen. But she agrees because, like I said, the friendship is really important to her, so she does this for her friends. The coach of the team is a high school senior named Glynn Pike. She's fantastic at swimming. She's the best swimmer in the county. But she has some challenges as far as leadership. That comes into play, and as the team comes in, the group becomes involved with the team, including Cho the seamstress making the uniforms for the team. The team hadn't had uniforms. Cho steps up and makes uniforms for everyone. And the team is called the Selkies, which was a change from their previous name, which was the Bottom Feeders. As the summer goes on, however, vandalism starts to occur. The diving board is vandalized, and other things start happening, and Dethany, being such an outsider, begins to be accused of the crimes by other people on the team who don't know her. Therefore, Dethany and the group have to find out who's conducting the vandalism and why that's happening. As they discover clues during this whodunit, they discover that things are happening that that are far beyond just the swim team itself, that involves the whole neighborhood. It begins to have far wider implications that puts the whole neighborhood at stake. And yeah, that's the neighborhood, and I really can't go on any further without being spoilerish. So that's the setup behind Dethany and the Phantom of the swim team, finding out who the Phantom is and why the vandalism is occurring. And over the course of the summer, the group finds out things about themselves, and it's both an inner and outer journey. And H.H.?
Yeah. Yeah, so for the collaborative process, it really was just the two of us getting together, sitting down, and we kind of pulled a little bit from our own past in regards to my time on the swim team and as a preteen goth, and how we would work that previous experience into Dethany's world.
We would basically get together when H.H. came over to our house, as she often does. She also lives here in Atlanta. And we would get together on a Sunday and sit in my office and discuss we would build this world. This was very much a world building process.
Yeah.
We would talk about what kind of neighborhood this was.
Well, I'm just don't want to get too far into spoilers.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, obviously a huge factor in this story in particular is Dethany growing up and getting older, and I'm a bit closer to my preteen years than you are, so I had to put in my 2 cents in regards to maybe a scene need to be rewritten or a piece of dialogue need to be changed.
Yes. Yeah. It was very much a collaboration, especially as far as Dethany's physical journey during this summer.
Yeah.
Being a 12-year-old. And we started putting the plot together without really knowing where it was leading. And the characters kind of determined that. Because we had the characters set up from the first book, not just the other clique, but some of the antagonists. And that provided the framework. But it also involved her experiences at our neighborhood in suburban Atlanta, where she grew up. And she was on the swim team for that. And in fact, when I drew the pool, it was very much the memories of the pool back in our old neighborhood, which we happened to live across a cul-de-sac from. So it was very much drawing on experiences.
So something that I have noticed a lot in like really popular pieces of media that um, are aimed towards a goth audience, I've noticed that a large trend is to have an excuse for the goth character to be goth. That usually it's established that they had some big traumatic event and they're in active mourning and that's why they're now goth, and that's really not an accurate depiction on what being goth is and what and why the goth subculture is so appealing to so many people. It's it doesn't really need to have an excuse of going through trauma. It can be finding beauty in the dark and the macabre. And I really want to, and through the writing Dethany, I wanted to put emphasis on that young people can be attracted to those to that subculture without needing a dark excuse to embrace gothiness. And you know, the OG goths are getting a bit older now, and we have noticed that a lot of big mainstream companies are now trying to market towards goths. Like I've seen like skeleton and spiderweb themed crock pots or diapers with cobwebs on them. And so like now I've noticed that goths are kind of getting to be like, you know, your parents' clique. So we really want to make sure that there's, we want to like make stories about goths that appeal to our younger goths in the world.
And this gets into who the market is for our book. We see it as tweens and up, that for that age group that Dethany is depicted in, and also fans of Fast Track who have followed Dethany all along. So it is very much tweens and up. And that's it for our prepared remarks, and we are open for Q&A.
Is it better to buy it? Oh, can you use the microphone?
Oh yeah,
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
okay, just so we get it wrong.
Mhm.
Yeah.
yeah.
Is it better to buy books directly from you or through Amazon? Do you come out better which way?
Buying books directly from me, definitely.
Okay.
Because I might get pennies on the sale from Amazon.
Okay.
And it's autographed.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we don't have copies of this book, as it won't be out until later in the fall.
Yep.
But you can pre-order it off Hermes Press
Okay.
on their website. I'll hand you one of the
Yeah.
cards, which has the QR code, and that goes to the Hermes Press pre-order page, and that will, you can order it off then.
Okay. Second question.
Mhm.
How do you do 3 daily strips?
Well, yeah, I also do, and aside from on the Fast Track, I also do Kevin and Kel and Safe Havens. And I've been doing this since 1995, since Kevin and Kel came along. And basically I work on a 3-week schedule. Just for example, this week I'll be writing Fast Track strips, gags for Fast Track, while drawing up the Kevin and Kel strips I wrote last week. And I won't even be thinking of Safe Havens. When the next week comes along, I'll be drawing up all of those Fast Track strips and have 3 weeks worth of Fast Track to send into King Features, while then writing for Safe Havens, and the cycle goes on. And this is, what is really valuable is the week I take off between the time I write the strips and the time I draw them up. Because I come back to them after being away and see, oh, I can punch up this gag. I know how this gag can work better. By stepping away from it for a number of days, I have some distance and I'm able to make changes, and I do this with probably every single strip. There's something that I change between the pencil rough sketch and the final ink. Then I show it to my wife Terry, and I will then, she will proofread them, and then I send them on. And the King Features people are really grateful for that, because they told me at the Rubens Awards last week, when I met them, that I'm one of the people who send in the fewest numbers of mistakes, and that's because Terry catches them all. I make all the mistakes. I make them frequently. She catches them before the King Features people do.
Right.
Any more Q&A? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I didn't realize it was this short, we could almost do it again. For the second round. That's up to you, if you
Yeah.
wanna wrap this up.
Well, we can give you the condensed version.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, you know Fast Track, of course. Yes, yes. He comes every con.
Oh, nice. Welcome back.
One of my regulars,
Yeah.
and I do appreciate that. But we're talking about, first of all, the introduction to the first book, which we introduced in 2021.
About
And
Dethany's tween years.
Dethany's tween years.
I own it.
Yes.
Yep.
Yep. So the second book, Dethany and the Phantom of the Swim Team, begins the day after the first book ends, on the last day of school. So the second book becomes, it comes into play right after the day after the first book ends. So it's like the first day of summer vacation. And we meet Patricia's family, we meet Dethany's family, the military family that has moved around a lot, so that Dethany becomes very attached to the friends that she made in the first book. And she's worried about leaving the first friends she's had, really. And she suspects that her family's going to be moving again. And this makes her want to spend more time with her friends, which includes joining the swim team, which is important because the swim team doesn't have enough swimmers to qualify for meets. They've had to forfeit some of the meets. And so she joins the swim team, even though outdoor sports are not in her wheelhouse. And the team is able to perform, but then vandalism starts happening. And Dethany, being the outsider, begins to be blamed. Things occur and people suspect her, so the group and Dethany have to clear her name, and it becomes a whodunit of who's actually doing the vandalism and what their motives are. And it becomes to involve the entire neighborhood. It becomes bigger than just a swim team. It involves, it has far wider implications than that as the mystery goes on. And yeah, that's as far as I can go without spoilers.
No.
Actually, I do have a question.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, can you use the microphone?
Okay, I've been a longtime reader, and I've noticed some patterns and pretty much tropes
Yes.
in a lot of the different cartoons of the many you make. I've noticed that with the newest intonation, they're not really taking over like the old days where you'd introduce the kids and the kids would pretty much take over or become the main characters. You've been focusing a lot on the main characters in all of them, and Dethany definitely took over the
Yes.
entire topic. And you've avoided any sort of the next generation with her. Is that on purpose? Is it you trying to break the tropes, or is it just the way it organically came out?
Very organically. This wasn't a grand intention on my part. I was basically just following the characters as they took the lead. I know in Safe Havens, I've introduced more characters as the kids have grown up and have gone through their lives in real time. With Fast Track, Dethany happened very much by accident. I introduced her with to figure I could do some goth gags, and then she would reveal herself to be someone else. And as soon as I started doing the Dethany things, I was showing them to my wife Terry, and I was first of all finding out she was very easy to write for. I knew her intimately right from the start, and then Terry suggested my idea of her being revealed to be someone else was not the thing to do, so that just confirmed what I was suspecting. So my original intention of her being just a disguise of another character went out the window, and I became building her as a character. And when the strip started coming out, the readers agreed. I started getting more reader feedback on her than I had ever gotten on any character I'd ever done in Fast Track. I would get emails from people just saying, "I love Dethany."
And even at the first few cons we went to after we published the first book, we nearly sold out of that first Dethany book. And I remember someone even came up to the table congratulating you for getting syndicated, because apparently he had just never seen or never paid attention to the comic until Dethany showed up.
That was at Otakon. He thought it was a new comic strip and that he really liked, not realizing it had been in the strip for years previously because he just never noticed it. But something about her as a character was very striking. And that has really enabled Fast Track to take another level.
If you're still taking questions,
Yeah.
are you ever going to get back to some of the more fantastical elements of the Fast Track
Like the
universe?
Moat Monster?
Yeah.
Well, what happened, and this is the direct result of Dethany coming along, I realized that she works well in the real world because she gets a lot of reaction from the other characters in a real world setting. So what happened, all the fantastical elements in Fast Track are now in cyberspace. Dethany's avatar is a goth unicorn, and the other characters all have avatars in cyberspace. So when I want to do fantastical things, it's them being online and interacting on social media and in cyberspace, and depicted literally, but you know they're really just typing at their computers. That seems to work well, because I have a real world where things happen that can happen that readers identify with, but I'm also able to do fantastical things because Dethany is very imaginative. That's part of her character. So we've lost the moat monster. If people ask me about her, I'd say, well, she's a human now. I still show a woman in the strip with green hair. That's the moat monster.
Kevin and Kel, the changing of species, is that an allegory for the trans community? And if it is, do you get the negative end of that with people being morons?
I haven't gotten any response. I mean, it's obvious. I make it obvious that the character of Bruno, who has had surgery to change himself from a carnivore to a herbivore, he had extra stomachs installed in his digestive system. That was his surgery. He is now a ram, where he used to be a wolf, and he deals with the conflicts that people in the trans community have to deal with about how other people react to him. He and his wife, Corey, have adopted a child who's a chameleon, and the spawn services in Kevin and Kel put a lot of roadblocks in front of them before they could adopt. It turns out that they were approved, and they have a very loving family. And I don't know, maybe my audience in Kevin and Kel know where I'm going, so that I don't have people who would complain about it, because Kevin and Kel from the very start, the very first strip, has been about people coming together. Because Kevin is a rabbit, Kel is a wolf, and their relationship from the start has been about breaking taboos and being about inclusion and everything that entails. So the strip from the beginning has been preparing for issues like this. So I don't think I have a lot of people who would complain that read the strip regularly.
You did miss an excellent 80s reference by not naming the baby Karma.
Yeah, Karma Chameleon. but well, her name is Carla. So, yeah.
That's about all I got.
Okay.
All right.
Anything else? I do want to thank you both for coming by.
Yes, thank you.
On the fast track, where do you get your corporate insights?
He deals with the corporation.
Well,
Yes.
but the view inside corporations is very different from outside.
Yeah, and I worked at the AJC.
Okay.
I worked at the AJC when the Constitution merged with the Journal. I was on the art staff, and the entire two staffs merged. So there was all this office politics and
Yes.
backbiting and backstabbing, as if people were jockeying to maintain their positions in the new hierarchy. So we in the art department just were eating popcorn while watching all this. So that was in '82, and it was in late '82 that I started developing Fast Track, because I had all this stuff I was observing, and it had a lot of material.
So every once in a while you'll have a comic that really strikes so true. I spent 40 years in a manufacturing business, and the conflict between executives was always,
Yeah. Yeah, everyone was jockeying to maintain their position rather than what the real corporate goal is put in front of them. So, yeah, that was a direct observation.
Regarding Trellis, she is set up as both a villain and a mother figure. How do you juggle making her human and making her a monster at the same time?
Well, she represents the corporation. Her character is that of an avatar of the corporate culture. But as a character, she does have some attributes. She is not totally villainous. The best way I can describe Rose is that her lens is entirely through that of power. And when she has a conflict, she says, how can this rebound so that I have more power? That's the lens that she sees the world through. So she has a acquired power that comes from being a billionaire. Fast Track is now the world's preeminent cloud computing company, which she took from, she originally inherited Fast Track from her father, and upon his death, it was just a agricultural supply company. And she took it in a different direction into being a tech company and has taken it into heights that her father never could have dreamed of. That said, she very much honors her father by knowing that he provided the seed that she grew from, both in physically and in the terms of the corporation. So she's not entirely villainous, but she just represents the corporation, especially in an era when we're in late stage capitalism. It is through Wendy and Dethany that Rose doesn't go beyond actual breaking the law. They show her where the guardrails are. And Rose kind of knows that. She won't admit it, but she doesn't go beyond what would make Dethany or Wendy leave the company, because they have their own moral ethics. And if Rose crossed a line, they would leave. So I think Rose does know where the line is. She's a complicated character.
Okay.
Okay? Well, I thank you so much for coming. It's,
Yes, thank you.
Oh, 313, 313 in the Artist Alley. I wish I had the books to sell, but that'll be later on. So yeah, here, you can go ahead and have a, you're welcome. And thank you all again for
Yes.
coming in on a Sunday morning. I do appreciate it.